Hello, I'm mangesh. We are going to discuss ideological spectrum, or which is also known as left-right divide. How we can categorize different ideologies, that we are going to discuss. Important thing is that from where did this kind of division like left-right had emerged? Whom can we call as a left? Whom can we call as a right? If we can go back to Enlightenment era, the Enlightenment era had given importance to ideas in place of ideologies. With giving importance to individual rationality, individual ideas had rejected concept of idol, concept of religion and concept of tradition. Rather than that, this period had given one, individual liberty or individualism. Another thing is individuals' own control over themselves, that is representative form of government or democracy. Another understanding had come up with not only individual but society also needs to be given importance, because individual development would not happen divide of society in absence of society. These are two important understanding. This understanding had also been followed by another understanding. Rather than modern ideas, there has to be existence or there has to be support for the traditional idea, because human society is organic in nature. Tradition, culture, religion need to be prevailed, need to be protected. So this was the third understanding, that is considered as a conservative order. French Revolution, which had given very important idea of liberty, equality, fraternity. The idea of individualism in 19th century had been supported by capitalist class. The idea of socialism or giving importance to society, that had been supported by working class, and the idea of conserving the tradition, conserving the religion had been supported by aristocratic class. Whatever ideas has been created in 18th century after Enlightenment period, all these ideas formed into particular set of ideas, and that converted into liberalism, socialism and conservatism. 19th century politics in Europe had noticed party politics as well. Different political movements, different political parties had also been emerged. So all these ideological stand, all these ideas got support from particular group. For example, individualism had been supported by capitalist class, and that had again converted into liberalism. Then socialism was supported by particular group, that is working class. That had again converted into ideology of socialism. Then third ideology, which is considered as conservatism, which was supported by aristocratic class. All these ideologies started intervening in politics and competition in the past. However, whenever we are trying to understand how we can define which ideologies can be considered as a left ideology, which ideology can be considered as a right ideology, but where does this word left and right comes from? After French Revolution in 1789, when the general estates sat together to discuss, at that time, those people, those leaders who sat at left side, they were supporters of liberty, equality, and those who sat at the right side, those were supporters of established order, established system and established authority. That's why this term had come up. The left, those who will support, those who are supporting liberty, equality, individual freedom, regulation of economic activity, those who support were considered the left, and those who would oppose liberty, who would uphold the traditional ethics, traditional rule, authority, traditional authority, and no any control by state, those were considered as right. There are two important spectra. One is a linear spectrum and another one is considered as a horseshoe spectrum. So linear spectrum, you can see there are two ends. One is left, another is right. At the center there is a liberalism. At the left there is a communism. At the right there is fascism. Liberal comes at the middle. So communism, which believes in extreme deregulation, no any control of state. Communism believes in absence of state, absence of any kind of structure, and total ownership of individual being is at one end, that is left. And fascism talks about total control of individual life by particular authority, that might be state, that might be particular individual. Culture, total control of culture, total control of religion, total control of thought. So total control of thought at one end, that is considered as right to no any regulation, that is communism. But at the center there is liberalism, which says that there has to be some control. There has to be some control on economic activities, and there has to be some control on liberties of individual as well, which would lead for the good human life. However, there are other two ideologies as well. Between communism and liberalism there is socialism, and between liberalism and fascism there is conservatism. So why there is socialism in between communism and liberalism? Because liberalism talks about party politics and liberalism talks about state. At some extent state would regulate activities, but socialism talks about control of proletariat class, control of working class, but still state will be there, and that state would be only governed by proletariat class or working class. Means of production would be controlled by the state, and there would be nationalization of industry, there would be nationalization of agriculture, but state would be there. But in communism state would be there, people would be totally free, and there would be common ownership of means of production. The modern liberalism says that there will be freedom to individual being to develop as per their own. State should support the vulnerable section of the society like workers or any other section of the society as well. If we can head toward the right, then there is one ideology in between liberalism and fascism is conservatism, which believes that there should not be a total state control, but the culture, the tradition, religion should be respected, and people should accept rules and regulation, the faith, the customs prevalent. But the conservatism is not talking against controlling individual faith or any kind of regimentation which is being upheld by fascism. Conservatism comes in between fascism and liberalism. Revolution in Russia, and even during the era of Stalin, and the communist state had always faced dictatorship. They had always been dictatorial, and there had been always suppression of individual liberty as well, suppression of other thought as well, other groups as well. That's why it has always been noticed that communism always goes at some extent close to fascist ideology as well. To some extent, with experience from communism, communist state had always controlled individual being as well. In that sense, another understanding of is considered as a horseshoe spectrum, which says that communism and fascism, they are coming close. In that sense, they are not equal. In that form, communism is becoming very close ideology, and that close ideology is going toward fascism. This horseshoe, these are the two understanding of ideology. There is again another understanding of ideologies that is considered as hybrid ideology or cross-cutting ideology. So apart from communism, conservatism, liberalism, fascism, there are different ideologies which had emerged during globalization period, during 1980s and 1990s. What are those ideologies? So there, for example, liberal conservatism, democratic socialism, Michael Frieden, who says that the traditional ideologies or conventional ideologies somehow change. So there had emergence of different kind of ideologies which are taking few things from each ideology. So the conventional ideologies and other ideologies, and this, for example, liberal communism is taking something from liberalism, something from conservatism. Socialist feminism taking something from feminism, something from socialism. So these ideologies are called as a hybrid ideologies or cross-cutting ideologies. Thank you so much for this.